So here we are with the Roden Douglas C-133A Cargomaster. Nice box art here from Roden, and it's showing the sort of size of the aircraft there. As far as I can tell, this is a Cold War sort of period aircraft, which was around in the sort of late period, I guess, so running into the 1970s, towards the end of the Cold War, and used for, obviously, as it would suggest, transporting goods around. So this is something that I think is an improvement for this kit, and the recent kits from Roden is having colour callouts here for the decal and painting guide, decal placement and painting guide. And we've got one aircraft here supplied in the kit with the decals for a marking option, and this is SN 540137 of the 436th Military Air Wing, US Air Force, 1970. And here you can see it's standard. It's a silver bare metal finish, natural metal finish. Lots of chances for good panel, different paneling, and obviously working with the bare metal finish. And you've got the decals showing quite comprehensively the stencil data. You've got the walkway lines, which is very iconic of aircraft in the US Air Force of this period, as well as these horizontal red lines as well, which I'm afraid I can't tell you what they're for, but I'm sure a lot of you will know, so please let me know in the comments. And then you've got quite a nice selection of markings there on the tail, and it's a Military Air Transport Service aircraft for the US Air Force. Colour callouts here are in Vallejo. The decal sheet here as well, I can't really talk for the decals, obviously, how they're going to behave. But looking at them on the sheet, we do have large carrier film around, certainly the larger letters. It does shrink down for some of these other smaller decals, but the vast majority of them do have quite large carrier film around them. You've got all of the individual parts for the walkways and for the red areas over the engine nacelles and around the fuselage. These obviously you're going to have to line up to do this area for the walkways on the wing, so careful placement there, and fingers crossed that the decals are going to work with you at that situation. I know in the past some Roden decals, as soon as they hit water, they disintegrate. I must admit these look very different to those. It doesn't say where they're printed apart from with the Roden logo there, so presumably they're printed in-house. There's no cartograph logo, so I can't say that they're not printed by Roden. I can't see that that's obvious, so I'm guessing they are printed in-house. Hopefully they're going to behave well. Like I said, I'm going to have a go at building this one, so I'll certainly let you know along the way how the decals perform. And from that we're on to the instruction booklet. So we've got a nice write-up here on the aircraft, and you've got that in 3 languages, and it is looking like we've got Russian, dare I say, English and German. Please forgive me if I'm wrong there. And then we've got a parts breakdown on the sheet there as well. Now I will draw your attention to this area on the fuselage, the forward section of the fuselage. Throughout this instruction sheet, on the parts breakdown and also on the painting guide, has this very prominent ribbing going through it. When I've looked at the aircraft as well with pictures of it, some show that, some don't. It's not actually moulded on the kit parts, so I'm guessing that all the way through the stage they were planning on moulding it, and then they've decided not to in the end. I would say it's probably a good call looking at it, because what I've seen pictures of, I would imagine you'd actually prefer to mask, and you could do it with using different shades of metal colours. That would be my suggestion, so at least you've got the opportunity, whereas if that was moulded in, you wouldn't be able to. But please again let me know in the comments if you have any more knowledge on that, or if you feel as though it should be there, it shouldn't be there. Let me know what you think. So conventional breakdown here, starting with the seats, although I suppose it is unconventional because we roll straight into the wheels, and then as we run through we've got the cockpit coming together. That's the only interior detail as I can see, apart from moulded on detail in the cargo bay on the inside. But as far as separate interior detail, it's just the cockpit up the front. You've got 4 seats, so you've got a control panel at the back on the rear firewall as well, and we've also got the instrument panel going in front of the control yokes, and I'll just check to see if we have any instrument panel decals. Don't think we do. I don't think it's going to matter on a kit like this where you're not really going to see it, but there is an opportunity there if you want to put some instrument dials in. Obviously going to be very small given the scale. We've got 4 engine nacelles going together there, so it comes in 2 parts, and then we've got the end going on with the propeller onto a separate spinner. Horizontal stabilizers going together in a 2-part sandwiched together construction style, as the wings are as well. We've also got the parts of the actual engine nacelle already built into the wings, so we've got a butt join with the engines going onto those. Then the 2 halves of the rear section of the fuselage going together with 1 window on the inside, cargo bay detail going on the inside of the aircraft there. And I'm just checking the paint call out because we've got some paint call out numbers in there. We've got in chromate green, which is their interior green, natural steel, which is actually pointing to the ribs, and that's the 2 colours. So they are giving you a colour call out for interior green on the wall and then picking out the ribs in a silver colour. I personally think, again, there's an improvement on the instructions. I've got a few Roden kits spanning time. We've talked about the Pedro in the past, but all the way through up to I've got a Beechcraft Stagger Wing as well, which is a more recent release. Then we've got landing gear going together, windows going together in the inside of the fuselage, but I would suggest just using some PVA glue because these are so small it wouldn't matter whether they're clear or not. And that's the main stages here. Then we've got the landing gear and wheel bay going together, so we've got a join onto the side of the fuselage and the landing gear going up inside that. Then the fuselage comes together with the tail going on, the interior going in there. We've got 10 grams of weight that needs to be added, glazing going onto the cockpit, a few other small parts, and then the wings going on and the engines being fitted. A few small minor details going on at the end with the cargo bay option open or closed, a small ladder as open or closed for the front, and then we've got the gear doors as well being positioned in the open position. Then we've got a breakdown of the stencil data, which is over 2 pages, which I think is quite comprehensive and gives you good placement of the decals. And as you can see, we've got the ribbing going all the way through all of these parts as I mentioned. Here are the fuselage halves. And as we can see, there is no ribbing that you've seen all the way through the instructions. So like I said, I think personally that's a good decision on that they've left that out. And now one thing that needs to be remembered as far as Roden's concerned is I think you need to look at them as a short run kit supplier. That seems to be the quality of what we're looking at, the way things are sort of designed to go together. And I feel in the past people probably expect a bit too much from them, and they have got bad press for 1 or 2 releases as they started off. Now we're many years ahead now, and I'm certain most people know what they're getting from a Roden kit, and they've done some lovely World War I aircraft as well as some interesting aircraft right the way across the board. I've even seen there's an airliner just been released as well, which looks quite nice. While still focusing on this kit, we've got panel lines which I think are actually a good representation. They are a little bit heavy given the scale, but then again, I mean, what are you going to do? You shouldn't probably have them there if you're being true to scale, so you've got to go for something. And I think the way they've tackled this, I think that's pretty good. I don't think you can really argue with what you've got there. I think it's nice detail right the way across, cleanly moulded. There is a bit of sink marks showing on the outside from where the ribbing begins, and you'll see that more on the tail section. I'm not sure how much it's going to show through. You won't know until you get a bit of paint on it, but it's something you need to be aware of. Then talking of the tail section, here you may be able to see in the light what I'm talking about with the, you can really feel it with your finger all the way through here. There are sink marks on every time that there's a line on the inside, and there is obviously lines right the way through with this ribbing effect, and it's pulled the inside back in a little bit, the outside in a little bit. So again, it's probably not going to tell until you get a bit of primer on there. When you're looking at natural metal finish, it may be something you want to tackle with a bit of filler just to try and blend that out. Then we've got the cargo bay doors here as well, with no detail on the internal surfaces, a couple of ejector pin marks, but apart from that, it's looking pretty good. Then we've got the two wings, and as I said in the looking at the instructions, that's a butt join on these two areas. Again, the same panel lining is actually carried on through here with some more surface details. I think that's actually very good, to be honest. It looks very much what I'd expect for this scale. It's all very impressive at the minute. Then we've got another sprue here with just a walkway that really is just there to bring the two halves together behind the cockpit. And we've also got the areas where the landing gear goes as well. Again with the same surface texture all the way across. Nice details, recessed panel lines, and smaller hatches shown as well. Quite sturdy looking landing gear there, which is what it needs to be really. There's a big tab of plastic there. They look very good. Then we've got the horizontal stabilizers. Again, same level of detail running through all of this, which is very nice. You've got you've got sunken injector pin marks there, and then you've got locating pins and holes to join all of that up, so actually give a nice strong join. And I think we've got the nose gear leg there as well, and the radome at the front. Then we've got 4 sprues, which each of them have an engine, each of them have the set of wheels, and they also have propellers. So that's how you get your 4 engines, 4 props, and your multiple wheels for the landing gear. Again, no defects across these, everything is the same level of detail, nice recessed panel lines, small amount of flash on the propellers, but again nothing to worry about, that will soon come off with a swipe of a sanding stick. 2-part construction on the wheels, so they're joined, but we've got smooth tyres, so again that shouldn't really be an issue. And nice hub detail there, actually, it's very nice hub detail. Again, given the scale, it's pretty well represented, I would say. And then one last sprue caters for all of the small windows that can be inserted from the inside, and then you've got the glass around the cockpit. I'll just look closely on that. It's actually very clear. That glazing, it's actually very good. It's one of the best I've seen from Roden in recent years. There isn't any scratches or any problem across any of it from what I can see. And nice good framing for masking. So that was a quick look at the Douglas C-133A Cargomaster in 1:144 scale from Roden. Again, as I think you'll agree, it's going to be an interesting build for the channel, something a little bit different. Get a chance to use some of those metal colours that we mentioned earlier, and generally just have a go at getting involved in something that should be a little bit different, should be relatively simple to build. It's a small parts count. Once you've got the engines together, the fuselage together, you're pretty much there, wings on, and job done, you're into painting. And I think overall it'll be a nice project.